But the question remains, can you really call this a supercar with that badge?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Wow, this thing does 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. And if you're in Germany, we'll take you all the way to 189.
Limp into position. Right, good afternoon everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Josh, and before we start, let me get my bias on the table for everybody to see. I am Team Toto, I am Team Hamilton, I am Team Bottas. I never drink Red Bull. For as long as I can remember, I've been a fan of classic Mercedes. I love the SLR, I love the SLS, and I crave a Mercedes garage like Schmee's. The only thing that could dampen my review of the AMG GT sat beside me is the fact that I've driven an AMG GTC, which has the wider rear arches, it has rear wheel steering and 81 more horsepower. So this could be a disappointment. But I assume that it won't be. I've always been a fan of the long-nosed Mercedes design. The only thing I've wondered is what it must be like to parallel park the Pinocchio of the supercar world. That was horrible. I'm quite a good parker, but parking between a Urus and an R8 in this thing is about as stressful as it gets with regards to parallel parking. And that isn't to say this is impractical. As far as supercars go, this is really practical, and I think that's due to the badge. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the problems with this car. When you see a Ferrari, you think, wow, a Ferrari. Anyone thinks that. Car people, non-car people. If you see a McLaren, the same. Lamborghini, wow, that's a supercar. Some non-car people will see this car and go, oh, look, a Mercedes. My daughter has one of those. I think it's an A-class. Well, Mr. Non-car person, does it sound like this? I think not. But the question remains, can you really call this a supercar with that badge?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Wow, this thing does 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. And if you're in Germany, we'll take you all the way to 189. It comes with a 4-litre V8 with a carbon drive shaft and a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. This thing is not to be taken lightly, that is for sure. It also comes with dry sump oiling, direct injection and 2 turbochargers. So when you floor it, it pins you in your seat a little bit like this. Wow, that sound. I may have once before said that I prefer a German V8 over a Ferrari V12. It just sounds more muscly. Wow! I can see why I've forever been in love with these cars. That is special. I've never been in a car where the steering feels so direct. A millimetre on the steering wheel and you are exactly where you want to be. The wheels feel so far forward and it is so planted through every corner. This is a thoroughbred. This feels ready to attack whenever I want it to. Oh, that noise. Downshifts. Woohoo, crackling a pot. All iterations of the GT sends power to the back wheels. And as you can see by the slide, it wants you dead. It wants you to die. But in the right hands, and in fairness, not on public roads, this would be an absolute joy to drift around the corners. We've all seen the F1 safety car gently drifting around every corner. Something quite funny I've just noticed is when you click through the driving modes, you have individual comfort, sport and sport plus, and above that you have slippery. Now, the power to the back wheels makes you think, is that when the road is slippery or when you want to go sideways? when you drive it, it's hard not to consider the decade of domination in Formula One. But unlike some of the wow manufacturers that I mentioned earlier that also compete in F1, this thing is actually practical. It's got cup holders. There are pockets in the door. You can just tell this is a car born out of a major manufacturer. And in this facelift model, it comes with everything you would expect. It has a digital dash. It has these glass-style graphic buttons down the center console. It has huggable bucket seats. The seats you get in the GTC and the GTR are effectively just carbon buckets with a few pads. These are actually very comfortable. I mean, it goes without saying, I absolutely love the steering wheel in all new AMGs. It just feels like a control panel. I'm not sure this is a good thing, but it makes you want to drive fast. There's brushed metal everywhere, and in the facelift, a nice 10-inch screen. There's also a glowing start button as if you're about to launch a missile. The other thing I really like about this car is the roof mechanism. Now, aside from giving it the kind of classic 300 SL shape, it's also very Transformer-esque. Look at this little bit. It's the little things when you're a car person. The only fault I have noticed with this car so far is something that's spoken about in AMG GT owner circles. Okay, look at the door. Not closing. Now, I'm doing it flimsy to prove a point, but this is something Shmee talks about. This is something I've read on forums. Obviously, lightweight for a reason, but the amount of times I've got out of this car and the door is not fully closed is immeasurable. But, as I said, I'm clutching at straws. Have my biases been confirmed or destroyed? Well, with Qatar starting soon, let's just say I'm still hoping for Mercedes one too. See you next time. Gear 3, I'm going to show you how quickly this thing moves. So, drop to 30 miles an hour, 50, woo, 50 only.